for the benefit of those who do not make it, we want to make it available to them so that they can see it at a later date and time. So hold your questions until the end. We'll run through this in a fairly efficient manner, and then I'm committed to taking as many questions as you have for as long as it takes.
So also, Lee, if you feel free to put your questions in the chat as you think about them too.
Absolutely.
Versus holding them to the end. Okay.
No. So we won't answer them until the end, but certainly put them in the chat. So we're also going to rejig the agenda just a little bit. Verna will not be here today. She had a death in her family. Quite frankly, her husband passed on last night. So I will cover off the homecoming piece of it as best I can. She's our homecoming chair. So certainly I'd ask you to keep her in your thoughts and prayers in the days and weeks to come. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to just give you a quick recap of where we've been and where we are, and I'm not going to belabor the point because on last session I think we did an adequate job of telling you what the plan is. So I'm not gonna cover that off again. I am going to share my screen. So I got involved in this 11 months ago, as did Cora and a few other folks, and over the last, I guess, 11 months, we've made pretty decent progress. So we've engaged with the engineering department. We've created basically an alumni society, which is part of what we're doing here today. And we really created a plan or tenets of a plan in order to improve the engineering program. So I kind of want to touch on 1 second why we think this is important and why this is really not hyperbole. What you see in front of you, hopefully everyone can see the chart, is I went back and I looked at all the engineering graduates all the way back to the 60s. The engineering program was created in 1956. Our first graduates came out in 1960. We had 3 graduates. And so we can look at the chart, the numbers around where have we been and where are we today. And this is really highlights where the main problem is in my mind. We're not producing the number of graduates that we were in the past. If you look at the chart, our heyday clearly was in the 80s. We were doing pretty good in the 90s, but if you look at the 2000s and the 2010s, we've quite frankly fallen off a cliff. This data goes through 2019. I don't have the 2020 and 21 data formally, but what I've seen is the decline continues even to this day. And so obviously, if the decline continues, we're going to be in a pretty bad spot. In my mind, we're already on that spot. So this is kind of the rallying point of why we're doing what we're doing, why it's important, and why it's important today. Demographically, if you look at this, most of our engineers came out in the 80s and 90s. And so if we don't get this taken care of in a very short order, then we're going to leave this to later generation. And quite frankly, it's our responsibility to maintain a legacy that was passed on to us by those who came before us in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and so forth. So this is really the rallying point of what we're doing. So we're going to cover a couple of things today. We're going to cover, we've created a donation page. One of the things we have to do is we have to provide funding, a lifeline of funding for the department. Engineering graduates are low because we're not getting the type of students that we once got. We're not getting the type of students we once got because the scholarships are not available like they once were. So that's partially our responsibility. And this thing has really 4 legs. So this is a pony that's got 4 legs. One of the legs is alums. We've got to do our part. The other part of the legs is the engineering department. So I'll call it the College of Engineering. I know it's not called that anymore, but we'll call it the College of Engineering. There's an executive component, the president, and then the board. So we've got 4 legs that we've got to get standing properly in order for us to get this thing going. And so we want to make sure, since we're driving this, that we've got our component taken care of. And so we're looking to do fundraising for the purpose of scholarships. So I'm going to turn it over to Howard to kind of talk through that funding page and what we're trying to achieve there. Then I'll turn it over to Corey to talk about the endorsements and why those are important. Then I'm going to come back and I'll cover our homecoming, and then I'll kind of close it out with what are the next steps. So Mr. White, I'm going to bring up the page and then you can talk to it.
Yeah, so as Lee mentioned, a very key component of that four-legged pillar, if you would, is funding. And a lot of times when corporations come in, they want to know donor numbers from alumni. And so that's number one. Number two is we truly believe that if we can make a statement, and statement is still final number to be determined, commitment per year. Number one, people realize that we as alumnus of Southern Engineering truly believe in Southern Engineering because we're actually putting our money where our mouth is. And so as part of that, conversations we've had is that as we ask the alumni to give to this initiative, we want those funds to be available for talent. We want those funds to be available to help get students there, with the other three legs of the pillar, if you would, the other three pillars, excuse me, really working to get some of the other things that will be needed as far as the infrastructure and from the engineering department. So what we've set up is a page, and you'll have that link. You can go and donate now. Is directly to the foundation page. And the reason we chose the foundation is that since a revitalization of it a little over 10 years ago, the foundation has come back with clean audits. And what that simply means is they've been audited without any restrictions or suggestions. So that means that they said we're going to do X and they've done X. And the other side of that is very easy, as well as they have the procedures in place for corporate matching. So those are a combination of things there. And so as you see here, there are various options you can give. If you could scroll down a little bit, Lee. You can actually set it up as a recurring gift, which would make it monthly or yearly. And then like here, the MDM captain simply means the $1 Million March, which is an initiative that was started about 8 years ago. And so you can select, Lee, I think is the one set up for, Lee, did you get set up as a captain?
Still working that, still working.
Okay.
It should be any day now though.
But don't allow that to stop you from giving tonight if you want to. Set that amount and, put in the appropriate information, and then it starts to happen immediately. And so we're able to see that, number one, track it. And then number two, as students come on, it's an easy process to transfer those funds into their accounts as it's allocated. So the first step, once again, is the reason the foundation page is here is so that out of those 3 T's, time, talents, and treasures, we're able to give our treasures. And as you're ready to commit, you can do that. Now, I will say this. The foundation does a gala every year before Bayou Classic. Friday night of Bayou Classic, they do a donor recognition gala. And if you donated over $2,000 or more to the university through the foundation by August 31st. So one of the things that if you donate that amount by August the 31st, you will get 2 tickets, 2 invitations, they're not tickets, to the gala in New Orleans. And this year's musical guest is Chaka Khan, I believe it is. So that will be just an incentive, not the reason, but just an incentive. So I want to make sure that's clear. You're not given to get the tickets, but if that pushes you over, please go ahead and do that. But the main reason is we want to be able to, as we step to the university stronger and ask for things, we can say as engineer alumni, we've made a commitment. Here's what's in the bank, and here's what's committed for the next 5 years. So that I'll turn it over to Corey. He's going to share a little bit more about the form.
Okay, so real quick, so Howard is spot on. So we're actually asking for a commitment of 5 years, because if we're going down the path of scholarships, then scholarships is not a 1-year phenomenon. It's going to really take a kid 4 to 5 years. And so we're starting this process, and we're asking folks not just to give, but make a commitment such that we can plan out the next 4 or 5 years around scholarships. So we've got a 5-year ask. We've got a homecoming goal as part of this process to raise, it's an odd number, $195,600. So basically that's 1956, which is the year the engineering program was established, times 100. So it's 195,600. So that's our goal to achieve by homecoming. Corey, up to you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so one thing we've noticed, we've talked to several engineering alumni and alumnus, and we've had some individuals inform us that they individually tried to reach out to the engineering program and, try to help the engineering program. And they were unsuccessful for one reason or another. So what we're thinking is that the strength is going to be in numbers. And when I say in numbers, I'm talking about as many engineering alumni, alumnus that we could get to endorse our plan and also to participate and work with us to try to revitalize the engineering program. I think we're going to be more successful. Just from the efforts that we've have already done, the new president of the university, as well as the dean of engineering and others, board members as well, have recognized that that we're serious and that we're here to help the university. So I suggest, and well, what we'd like to do is just identify other individuals that graduated from Southern in engineering and try to get them on board. So if you have a network of individuals that graduated that would like to be involved, please send them an invite and get them involved one way or the other, whether it's going to be just through their endorsement or if they want to actively participate and help us, move this initiative forward. So again, the strength is going to be in numbers. We currently have about somewhere around 65 that has signed up. We need a lot more, because the more you have, the more attention is going to draw when we're talking to, the decision makers at the university. So again, we encourage everyone to reach out to, 5, 10, 15 people that encourage them to get involved, and let's grow this number a lot more than what we currently have now.
Appreciate it, Corey. So that's spot on. So a lot of people have said verbally they support, but until you send me an email or sign up on the petition, I want to officially put your name on this list. And I really won't officially go to the president of the board until I get a critical mass. So obviously I've had electronic dialogue with the president. He understands what we're doing. We've got contacts at the board. So they've seen the video, they've seen the material. So conceptually, they have expressed support as well, individually, not as a collective board. So we've got their attention, but when we step foot officially, formally, and begin to create or make specific requests, I want to have a critical mass of people, and I want to have a credible dollar amount that we can go to them and say, we've done our part, we'll continue to do our part, and here are the things that need to be done from the engineering standpoint, from the board standpoint, and from the executive branch of the presidential branch as well. So that's why this is really important. No one I've talked to conceptually is in disagreement with this, but we've got to have official count and put pen to paper so that we've got some credibility when we move forward. So thanks for that, Corey.
Lee.
Yep.
Stay there for a moment. So you may also point out that where you see yes under the dollar amount column, those individuals that have pledged specific amounts and from a yearly and a 5-year standpoint. We just purposely left the amounts out here in, individually, because the key thing is being willing to commit and give is not the amount necessarily you give where you can give at. So I just wanted to point that out there.
That's thank you for that, Howard. So yes, we didn't post the actual numbers, and all of these are 5-year commitments. So the numbers range from $100 per year for 5 years to $5,000 a year for 5 years. So the participation rate is very important, obviously, as we go out and look for external donors. And so one of the things that we're looking at putting together right now is a package where we can solicit external donors, whether they be foundations, whether that be companies, whether that be individuals, whether it be Oprah Winfrey, Bezos, or whoever it may be, to put together a credible package. And one of the things that I've learned just from being on nonprofit boards is they want to see what have you done for yourself. What have you done to get to this point before you ask me for dollars? So participation rate for alums is critical. The dollar amount is important as well. So thank you for that, Howard. So we definitely want to add more names to this list, and I'm sure we will.
Hey, Hamp, I'm sorry, you said that goal of $195,600. That's the goal for have dollars in hand by homecoming, or
Correct.
commitments? Or
Correct.
so you want, it's almost $200,000 in hand by homecoming.
That is correct. So I'm gonna take
Okay.
questions at the end, Jay. So let's hold the questions, but I'll answer every question that you have. But that's a good segue into the homecoming piece. So yes, to clarify that, we're looking to have $195,600 in hand by homecoming. And now watch this. I went back and looked at the numbers. We've got over 6,000 engineers that graduated from Southern since 1960. And so 1960 tells me many of the folks that graduated in 1960 are still living. So we have a significant number of engineering graduates. And so I think that number, while it may seem daunting, is actually low. That's just my 2 cents on that. So on homecoming, so I don't have the full data on homecoming because, one second. Okay, stop the share. I'm not the committee chair, but I'll cover off what I do know. So there are 2. So the homecoming, I don't know, for those who came late, the homecoming chair had a death in the family, so she will not be here today. So keep her in your thoughts and prayers, but I'll cover in as best I can. So the homecoming festivities is essentially going to be 2 days, Friday and Saturday. So Friday, we've allocated time from 11 to 1 in the engineering building with the department chairs, with students, with the dean. I've also requested that the president stop by for 10 to 15 minutes to have a chat and kind of highlight his value of engineering. He has agreed. He has a board meeting that morning, so he has not given me the time he will be there, but he has acknowledged and has agreed to put it on his calendar sometime between 11 and 1. So it's also a good opportunity to come by and meet the new president, shake his hand. He may answer a few questions. But 11 to 1 is the time frame because there's so many other activities going on that day. The kids get out at 12. There's a pep rally at 12. There's an alumni thing at 2. There's a gala later that afternoon. So homecoming is really tight. So 11 to 1 was the best time we could get. 3 to 5 was available, but then you got parking issues once you hit the 3 o'clock hour. So 11 to 1 is what we'll be doing Friday. On Saturday, we will have a tailgate. We are trying to secure the location. It will either be in front of Pinchback, or it will be either at the corner of the street where Pinchback is located, which I think is Robert Smith Street, right by the stadium. So it'll be in line with everyone else's if we can secure that spot. If not, it'll be in front of Pinchback. And that'll go from 11-ish to game time. I've heard game time, although not confirmed, maybe moved up to 4 p.m. But whenever it is, it will go until 1 p.m. before game time. There will be a homecoming package complete with t-shirts and whatever. It's also a fundraiser. Don't ask me the specifics. Verna has that. We'll certainly get that out at the appropriate time. But that fundraiser is going to be for the engineering department itself. So I want to kind of make a distinction between the funds we're raising for the engineering department and what we're doing for the scholarships. We are supportive of both, so this is not a competition. There are needs on both sides, but our focus right now is clearly on engineering scholarships and increasing the number of qualified students that can come in and be part of the engineering program. So there will be more details around homecoming, but that's what I can give you right now. We are going to have it. We are working with the engineering department. They're covering expenses for Friday. I know Vernon was looking for sponsors for Saturday because we are going to have food. They were talking about having a wine and cheese tent as well. So we're going to do it. We're planning on doing it like engineers do it, which is well. But we'll have further information as we get to that point. So I'm gonna do a closeout, and then I'll take questions. I know most of the questions. I want to answer all the questions, quite frankly, but I know most of the dialogue is going to be in the question and answer session. But I'm going to share my document one more time just to kind of refresh everyone's memory around what our key areas are. So key areas. And we're still looking for volunteers. We're still looking for people to work as committee chairs or committee members around these areas. This is a heavy lift. And so the more people we can get lifting, the better. Verna has stepped up and done a masterful job around the homecoming stuff she's done to date. That's the kind of person I'm looking to step forward, or even a committee membership. So by all means, reach out to me if you want to get involved, not just with dollars, but with time and talent as well. So let me hit a couple of these items and I'll kind of tell you where we are. We've had discussions with the engineering department and with the dean directly. In fact, our last discussion was about a week and a half ago around all these items. So it is clear what our expectations are. And obviously our expectations, we want them to turn into actions. They're clear where we are, but we've got some work to do around a couple of areas. We've got some work to do around fundraising. That's kind of why we created the donor page. The structure of the College of Engineering is still a sole point. We have raised that. We have been heard. We'll see where that goes, but we're going to have to also engage the president and others to make that happen. Recruiting. So we're going to need. We've had big talk around. We want to bring in a cohort of 25, 50 students. We want to raise the graduation number to 100 within 5 years. Right now, as you saw the chart, we're sitting at about 50. I think the early numbers I saw for 2021 will put us in the 40s for undergrad. As a reference point, in 82, 83, we're sitting at 206, 190, 180, 170. And in the 80s in general, we average about 150, 140 graduates per year. So we're a long way from that number. We've set out a number of 100 as a goal, as a 5-year goal. So part of that, we've got to get the money to offer scholarships, and then we've got to go out and find the kids. Now, quite frankly, I think if we've got the dollars, finding the kids won't be that big of a problem. The kids are out there, they're just going to other places. But we need to rally around recruiting the right students, and we talk about the right students. We're looking for students who have a high propensity for graduation, so good ACT scores, good GPAs, the kind of students that we sat in class with in the 80s and 90s and even beyond. And we want a good balance of kids, but I think one of the things we're missing is that top quality student, like many of you were, like probably all of you were during your time at Southern. And then partnerships. We still got to create linkages to other colleges, linkages to corporations, linkages to institutions in general, government institutions. And so we still need folks around to rally around and kind of lead these efforts. So if you are able to, by all means, reach out. So what are the next steps? So the next steps are pretty simple. I think we've come a long way. We still got to continue to formalize, continue to organize, and continue to rally folks around this effort. But I think our next step is really formally engaging with the president and formally engaging with the board with specific requests. As I mentioned earlier, once we hit a critical mass of dollars and signatures, that's really the next step. I think we're pretty clear on what we want. We're pretty clear on the expectations. We're clear on the time frame. So we've left very little wiggle room as far as what our expectations are. And so with your help, and if we can all band together, we'll be at a good spot to make requests and to work with the administration to achieve the goals that we're looking for and to actually monitor them. So if you go back and look at, if you didn't see the video from the last session, I think you can go back and take a look at it, including the link You can see more details around the KPIs, what specifics we're talking. And if you got any questions, by all means, hit me up. I'll be happy to answer questions at any time. But right now, what I want to do is kind of open it up for questions. And again, I'll take questions for as long as we need to. Howard will, or Corey, the core group will take questions for as long as you need.
I think that'll help.
All right. Jay Prestige, mechanical engineering, May 1991. What is our mechanism for reaching out to all the engineering grads? This is very it's kind of word of mouth in terms of this. Is the College of Engineering able to assist us in any capacity from reaching out to people, or are we working through the Alumni Federation to reach out to people? There's got to be another mechanism that we have in place to be able to touch folk.
So you would think so. So we're in question and answer. So I'm going to record this, but I'm not going to include it in the session. So basically, you can ask whatever question. I'll give you a non-politically correct answer. So the College of Engineering cannot help us. Quite frankly, we have more data than they have. That's just the fact. We are what we are. The data you see around the engineering graduates, they don't have that either. I literally went to the library to pull the data from past graduating classes. So word of mouth is what we're using. We're using the network we have. We're asking folks to use that network around pulling the engineering graduates. Now, we can get names. So the names are not a problem. I've got every name of every graduate who's ever graduated from Southern Engineering. We have that. Now, reaching out to them via email or phone number, that's the challenge. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do that. I know some of you guys are huge on social media. You guys have large networks. And so we're beginning to build a database of engineering graduates through that. But that's slow, that's informal, that takes time, and it's certainly not comprehensive. So if anyone has a better suggestion or has that data, then by all means, we could definitely utilize that. So that's why the momentum has been growing, but it's growing much slower than we would like because we don't have all the contacts.
Do we have again, I'm no IT or data collection expert, but do we have just a link that we can send to people to say, hey, just go register here and put in your contact information? I'm assuming we have something like that, right? Just kind of a self-registration portal.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. We don't have that put together ready for now, but we certainly can put that together fairly quickly. That's pretty easy to put together. Yes.
Okay. All right. And I'm thinking out loud here, so I don't want to monopolize, but it's just as stuff comes to me. Just working through the larger Southern University Alumni Federation chapters. There's probably 500 engineers from Southern in the Houston area alone, right? Mm-hmm. Between Houston, Dallas, some of these places where, petrochemical companies that have recruited heavily at Southern, people that are into some of the, IT type stuff, there's got to be a way. Or even contacts at some of the larger companies. Like I'm gonna call TI out as an example. Laquita, who's our outgoing national alumni president, she's a computer science graduate, but I'm sure she probably knows who a lot of the Southern folks are inside of TI that were engineers. So, stuff like that.
Yeah, no doubts. And we're using those channels, but even those channels are slow because many people, quite frankly, are not active in their local alumni chapter. I can tell you here.
I would agree with you on that.
We come out for
the crawfish boil.
The crawfish boil in April.
And it vanished.
Right. But then it's ghost after that. So it's not as easy as I thought. I was kind of thinking like, this should be easy. We got 6,000 engineers. So surely we can get to 3,000 or 4,000. But it's proven to be much more difficult than that. But we'll continue to try. If folks have got ideas or other suggestions, we'll definitely take those on. So we don't have a monopoly on good ideas, certainly.
And Jay, Dr. Mark, hold on 1 second. I want to touch on what Jay, and we'll come back. Is yourself or others that may have those technical capabilities and time to, set up a landing or lead capture page that we can easily share. We definitely, want you engaged from that standpoint, Jay.
I have neither.
But you know who they are. And I'm saying anyone.
Yeah, you see where my time goes.
So,
Dr. Morgan.
Dr. Morgan.
Yeah, this is Morgan Watson, mechanical engineering Southern University Mechanical Engineering class of 1966, and I'm beginning my 53rd year as a teacher at Southern University. So I've been here through most of the growth and evolution of the College of Engineering. And I'm wondering what effort has been made to coordinate our efforts with the current dean and department chairs in the engineering areas. I know we have a dean in the College of Sciences and Engineering now, but engineering is really driving the ship when you get right down to it, as far as the funding and outreach and so forth goes. So I think it's fine to meet with the president and the upper administration, but I think we should sort of go up the line as well, go up the chain of command as well. And I think you'll get more, because this is very, very well parallel with something that the dean has been pushing for years through his engineering advisory council. So have we made any efforts to coordinate our efforts with the dean and department chairs in the engineering areas?
Yes, absolutely. So I first met with the dean back 11 months ago, and I met with him as recently as 10 days ago. And the team had been working with the department chair, particularly electrical engineering, because that was viewed as the problem area by the department. And so we began to work with
It is, and it still is.
We began to work with the chairman of Double E, which is Dr. Fred Lacey. So we worked with him probably for about 2 or 3 months, and then came to believe that the problem was not actually electrical engineering. We believe the problem is engineering as a whole, because many of the solutions that we began to advocate for were not EE solutions, they were engineering solutions as a whole. And when we looked at the systemic challenges, they were engineering challenges as a whole. So one example would be the pipeline that we used to have from ESI and Summer Enrichment into Southern Engineering Department. Those pipelines either don't exist or they're so constrained now that they don't look like they used to look. And so we certainly are working with the engineering department. We have laid out our expectations for them. We're working with them on several items. So we're definitely working with them. Now, the reason I think we work above them is because we can say things and we can do things with the president and the board that they can't. Because I'm not employed by the president, I'm not employed by the board. I don't have any qualms about saying what I think to those individuals, because our goal is to get the engineering department back to where it was. So when we threw out a goal, like we need to graduate 100 students in the next 5 years, that is uncomfortable for them, because we're sitting at 49, 50 right now. So that's to them, that's doubling the number. To me, it's cutting the number in half that we had when I was there in the 80s. So we come from very different perspectives, but we are working with the engineering department very closely. There's a long way to answer that question.
I want to ask you this question. Have we entertained growing our students in recruitment? Say, my kids are in high school right now. One of the key things that they do is they go online for tutoring, what have you. Is it possible that we can entertain maybe within our group, kick around asking the university, perhaps open a couple of job requisitions there on main campus, background checks and everything, because some people are pedophiles, whatever, to have a couple of requisitions for tutoring, online tutoring for high school students, to give the alumni a tool to go and pitch to the high schools in our city to say, hey, my school even offers online tutoring in algebra, geometry, and some of the sciences. Is that possible? I'm just opening that to the group to talk about, but I think that's one key element in terms of hooking a student maybe in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade year to really say, hey, Southern University cares so much about me to help me even in my algebra 1, algebra 2,
So that gets back.
Yeah.
That gets back to engagement. So that's one of the 6 key areas, and we kind of outline, what we think about engagement, and that's really engagement from the university out to the community, and really being the pillar for the community, and helping lift up the kids in the community with their math scores, with their science, proclivity, and really just kind of being the pillar for the community. And so that's part of it. So it's not just tutoring kids at Southern, it's tutoring kids in the community, it's tutoring kids as they come to Southern, and really becoming the bright light for the community. And that's how you really indoctrinate yourself into the community, ingratiate yourself into the community, and really become what we were in the 80s. Now, in fairness to Southern, they're gonna have resources. That stuff takes time. That stuff takes resources. That stuff takes dollars. But it is something we absolutely have to get back into, and I've communicated that to them as well. And that's how you get students. So that's how we get from 50 graduates to 100 graduates and to back to 200 graduates. And that's kind of how we've kind of laid this thing out. We expect to get to 100 in 5 years, and in 10 years we expect to be at 200. Now that number is a reach in some people's mind, but it's really not a reach, because if you look at what's going on at A&T, if you look at what's going on at Prairie View, there's a significant surge in their graduates. And A&T is probably the leader as far as graduates are concerned. The College of Engineering and Science graduated 256 last year. Now all of those are not engineers. They combine computer science in there, but they're still in the mid 100s as far as engineering graduates are concerned. And if I look at their numbers, and I'm an A&T graduate from a master's program, I look at their numbers, and they're getting all the accolades. Their numbers still don't compare to where we were in the 80s. So we have the DNA, and we've been there before. We know how to do this. So this is not something we don't know how to do as a group. It is just getting back to the fundamentals that allowed us to get there. And I like the way, if you're a Steph Curry fan, great. If you're not, I'm sorry. I like the way he put that when they asked him the question about the Warriors, he said, we've got in our DNA. We've got championship DNA. And I feel that way about Southern. We've got championship DNA as it relates to putting out quality African-American engineers. We just got to get back to that DNA to be able to do the things that we know we can do to get to the outcomes that we're trying to get to. But yeah, being a pillar in the community is something that's part of the 6 key areas that we've got to get back to. Absolutely.
Thinking about some of the other things that are being done in the STEM area, as far as K through 12, and really late in the pipeline, let's say 9 through 12. Calvin Mackey is doing a lot of stuff in New Orleans as far as STEM NOLA.
Yep.
And that's okay. That's an hour and a half. Well, depending on how you drive, an hour down the road, right? Is there a way that we can somehow, because we start talking about the recruitment piece, is there a way that we can somehow tap into that network or that arrangement in terms of trying to get Southern, on the minds of some of these young people as far as potential, as a potential option for an engineering education?
Absolutely. And then Rodney, we're going to come to you next. I saw your hands up, so I'm going to take your question next, Rodney. So yeah, Calvin Mackey is the brother of Anthony Mackey. They're doing some really good stuff down in New Orleans as far as I think the East Side, as far as STEM is concerned. So yes, but there are other places that are doing great work as well. I mean, we can go to a number of places and connect with them, and that's kind of the area we talked about is partnerships. So how do we link with not just other colleges, but with the high schools that are providing the pipelines? We know what schools are producing the kids that can do the work at Southern. Now, here's the challenge. We can't go there empty-handed.
You are correct.
When LSU is offering this, or this place is offering this, when we came through, Jay, I had a scholarship to Southern. So everybody else who was talking to me, it was talked to my hands. Southern was where I wanted to go, and they provided the funding, so it became a no-brainer. So that's why our focus right now, one of our focus, and our main focus from a fundraising standpoint, is to provide those scholarships to those kids so we can bring them here. We can bring a cohort here. When I say a cohort, you go out and you bring in 30 kids that are highly qualified, and you let them become the face of the program. And within that face, they will attract other folks to the program as you go forward. But we got to have the dollars to attract them. Those kids get offers from other places, so we've got to be at least competitive. We can't make the choice, well, you can come here and we're not going to give you anything, or you go there, they're going to give you a full ride or half ride. We've got to be competitive. And right now, quite frankly, we are not competitive. And when I looked at the statistics that I saw around the kids we are getting with what I call exceptional ACT scores, and when I say exceptional, I just mean 26 or above, you'd be shocked at how low that number is. It's single digits. And that's not in engineering, that's across the board. So when I saw that number, that's shocking. So we got to do a better job of attracting those kids. And the way you do that, I think, we think is through scholarships. But yeah, we got to hit those linkages.
So Lee, I want to bring home one point though, what you're saying, Jay, there are a lot of ideas out there. There's, and I'll use Kevin Mack. If you had 15, 20,000 to do a full STEM Fest day, would you have Southern engineers helping volunteer for that?
Mhm.
So that's why we're saying we also need our alumni to engage to help create those ideas and help be visible as we are in front of those students. So that's one reason why we're asking for just engaging wherever you can.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Rodney Logan, mechanical engineering class of 91. And my question is, so for this homecoming goal that we're going to raise, is all that funding going through the foundation page as well?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So as Howard mentioned, the foundation has the infrastructure in place. There's no sense in us creating a separate mechanism for fundraising. We've got the foundation, so we're going to drive everything to the fundraising page. We have not, that's a good point. We have not sent out our page, the link for our page. So we need to do that. And we'll do that this week. So we have a specific page that is dedicated to this effort, which will be dedicated to those scholarships for engineering. So we will send that out, and that is the page we're driving folks to and driving traffic to. Not to say you can't give to the general page and to the general fund, that's fine as well. But for our purposes and for engineering purposes, we're driving folks to the page that we actually just set it up last week. We've got some changes we need to make, so that's why we hadn't sent it out. We'll send that out this week, make sure everyone has that, but yes.
Janet Miles, EE, class 89. Couple of questions. So I know the overall goal is 100 students, graduates within 5 years, but is there incremental strategy overall that say we're going to bring in a cohort of 10 or 20? I mean, is that strategy laid out, or do we need to develop that strategy as to how do we get there? A roadmap, if you will.
Okay, so let me take that question and I'll come back to you for your second question. Is there incremental strategy? The answer is no. And here's why there's no incremental strategy. Because to get to 100 in 5 years, we've got to bring in X number of kids for fall 23. And so the minimum cohort that we'd like to bring in is 25. We'd like to get to 50, but the minimum is 25. But we have to have a strong fall 23 class in order to get to a 5-year goal. Because if we're bringing in kids 2 years from now, they're not going to meet the 5-year goal. It's going to take them 4 or 5 years to graduate. Now, we could always supplement via community college and junior college and whatnot, but that's going to be an incremental supplement versus the core students that we need to bring in are going to have to be fall 2023. And that's why it's critical that we've got the funds now so we can start recruiting kids in November, December, January, and not wait until March, April, because all the quality kids in March and April are gone. So the answer is no to incremental. It's all or none right now to get to that 100.
Yeah, so real quickly, I just want to add that it'd be great to get individuals' commitment, right? We got about 28 people on here. And if each of us that's on here get at least 5 alumni, people in our network, and spread the word, because I really consider this a grassroots effort. Like you said, the university isn't helping much in terms of contact information, but I guarantee you, start with the grassroots, that each of us work our contact list, get people from Southern that we know that graduated in engineering. And so we can get the process rolling and get people out there to know what's happening, and know what the vision is for alumni, how we can give back in it. So I just appreciate you doing this. Like I said, I just happened to find out from Ray Davis. He sent me a text. I didn't know anything about it. So it was the first I heard about it, but here to contribute in any way I can. And let's start working our contacts and get that. Oh, by the way, EE grad, fall 1990.
Okay, excellent. And it's not that the engineering department doesn't want to help. They don't have the data. They don't have the capacity, quite frankly. So it's not that they've been very cooperative, but they only have what they have. So that's kind of why we're doing this.
And also, I put 2 links in there. I went ahead and put the foundation page setup link in the chat. There'll be some changes. So, but if you want to go ahead and make that donation now, you still can.
Hey, Lee, on this cohort we're trying to do for 23, you
Mhm.
know what level scholarship we're trying to give? Is it full, partial? What are we doing?
So it depends on the dollars. So we don't know that yet, and that's why it's pretty critical we get in front of this as far as how much dollars do we think we can bring in. So once we get the dollars, we can figure out that. Realistically, I would expect it to be tiered. In other words, highly qualified students, we can look at full rides. The next tier, maybe partial, but it's really going to dictate what's going to dictate that is going to be the dollars. So we just don't know that yet. I'm hoping the alums show out and come out in full force, and then we're going to begin tapping into third parties who have big funds, like I said, entertainers, athletes, corporations, foundations, and really try to put together a compelling story around that. Which reminds me, so one of the things we've got on our plate to do is create a video solicitation, and what we want to do is kind of outline the history of the engineering program and what the engineering program has meant to so many people. We want to highlight some alums who have done well. So if you want to nominate someone, or if you want to nominate yourself, shout out to me. We want a couple stories. We want those who have done exceptionally well, and we want those who have stories that highlight Southern's influence on them in their career, and really the financial piece of how the scholarships, many of us had scholarships, how the scholarships allowed you to matriculate through Southern and really attracts you to Southern. Because I want to kind of draw the parallel between why we need the dollars, and if we get the dollars, here are the outcomes that we're going to produce. And by the way, we know we can produce the outcomes because we've already done it. So this is not something we're trying to do for the first time. We've got a track record of doing it. We just don't have a recent track record of doing it. So I don't know the answer to that until we figure out dollars that we have.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that concludes the session. We've got a couple of action items to get things out to you guys, and we'll certainly cut and paste this session and send it out as well. I can't promise it's going to be in the next couple of days. I've got a colonoscopy tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. But we'll certainly appreciate you guys joining in. And by all means, reach out to me, reach out to Howard, reach out to Corey around if you want to volunteer, or if you've got some suggestions and ideas. We are more than open to hearing them and receiving comments and receiving help. We don't have a monopoly on good ideas, so if we can unite and get this thing, we'll get it done.